Hello, I want to show you a few things about how to use PowerPoint for a workshop. Um, so I want to go through a few things with you, and I'm going to try to keep it short so that you can pause it and go through as you need to. We're going to start, in fact we're already using this in class as we start surrealism. Surrealism is a style of art that would have come during and out of the 1913 exhibit, the Armory show, that you have done some work with already. So to start with, what you want to do is to go into your art folder, open that up, right click, new PowerPoint presentation, and just name it workshop. If you want to call it art class in case you decide to do this in other classes. Alrighty, so when you open that up, and I don't know why it's taking so long. There we go. First thing I would do is click it to add title. Then in the upper left, go to layout and just hit blank. That way you've got a blank area to work with. And maybe just add a few tiles. And I prefer working offline, so I hit Control S, or I'll do File Save pretty often. Okay, so the ones we're working on now are cropping, removing the background, copy and paste, and flipping and rotating. And what this allows you to do is to not only get reference pictures, but to create compositions so that you can work from these new compositions, ones that you come up with, to create, in this case, a surreal composition or any other composition that you want to put together. So what we're going to do is to pull some pictures in here. So you should already have in your art folder some images. So this is a different folder here that I've got some images stored in. And there's different ways to get let's get rid of that. Different ways to get your image into there. To me, the easiest way when I'm putting images in is to have the source, this folder on the left, and my PowerPoint both open. And so what I can do is go in and find different images that I want to use. So what I want to do is I want to select a couple of photos and I want to put them into here. So I'm going to pull over this picture of an Austin Healey, and all I did was click and drag, and this design ideas will pop up. I just get rid of that. Let's see what other pictures I want to use. I'm going to take this picture of a pigeon again. Now if it says here over where it says design ideas, stop suggesting ideas until I restart. That keeps it from popping up. After a couple of times that will pop up. And I'll use a picture of my little puppy, Scout. So to give myself room to work, what I'm going to do is I make sure I deselect all of them. Then I'll click over here and I'm going to move these to different slides. I could have just brought them into different slides. And what I want to try to do is to isolate that to remove the background. So I have that to kind of play with as a design element. So I want to be able to see it, so I want to enlarge it first. And if I want to eliminate the background, it's probably a good idea to get as little background as possible to start with. It makes my job easier. So if I double click, I can come up here in the right corner and hit crop, and notice that you get all these little black either brackets in the corner, these little dashes. Now if you grab the side, you move just one. If you grab a corner, you can move two edges. And so since what I want to do is get rid of the background, I'll just pull it in pretty tight. Then I click over here in the blank area of the slide, and I've gotten rid of all that background. So now, if it's highlighted, you already have remove background up here in the upper left. But if you don't, you just click on it, and that will appear. Then you click remove background. What happens is it recognizes that here's the whole picture. You've cropped it down to this, so it knows where you cropped, and it's probably going to pop up pretty, with a pretty good amount of what you want. It's fairly good at figuring out what you're going to try to keep. Everything in purple is what will disappear. So you can tell that I don't really have any background right now that I want to get rid of. It did a good job there, but there's a lot of the car that I want to keep. So I'll come up here to my two tools. One is ring mark areas to keep, and one is to mark what you want to remove. So I'm going to click areas to keep. And if you click on one little dot, sometimes it'll pop up a big area. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll click and drag, and it kind of pops up a bigger area like that. And oftentimes it'll pop the headlight and part of this in here. It's just picking up certain color groups. And you kind of have to look. Sometimes I will enlarge to see, yep, missed a spot right there. I'll go around and try to catch a lot of the parts. Sometimes you have to go back and redo it. But after a little while, you can get pretty close. And what it'll do probably is it will keep parts that you don't want, like parts of the background will appear and you want to get rid of those. So it's a little bit of a back and forth, but it's usually not too hard once you get the hang of it to get just what you want. So let's see, I'm going to check around here. This one worked out pretty well. I've got just about everything that I want. Looks a little funny right there, so I'm going to try to remove a little bit of that. That took away too much. So, and I want to keep that. You have to check around the whole thing before you call it done. And so that's not perfect, but for what we're doing, it's going to work just fine. Once you get it pretty much like you want it, you click keep changes, and you now have your car isolated. And you can tell it's rough. If you want to go back and try it again, you can go back and try that. Okay, so I'll make it kind of little. Then I'm going to skip down here to Old Scout. I'm going to do the same thing. I've already cropped this one pretty close, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove background. And see, it kind of knows what I want to do, but we got to tell it where to keep. And probably since he's got white on his nose and it's in the snow, it's probably going to pull in some of the background that I don't want here in just a minute. I'll have to go in and change that. So far it's doing okay. So really what we're doing is we're just using PowerPoint since it's free, as opposed to a program like Photoshop, if you don't already have, can be anywhere from hundreds to thousands, just to kind of isolate the pictures. Let's see if that gets me about where I want. Pretty close. Okay. Now that I've worked on it here, I'm going to move it up with the car, because what I'm trying to do is combine all these pictures. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Crop it down. Move background. Oh, got really lucky on that one. I think probably since I've started doing this, they have updated the program where it does a little bit better job. So we'll enjoy that. Not quite so much having to go back and do little things. So we'll keep that. Oops, lost his head. So got to go back and make sure I keep his head. Okay. Oops, now I got too much background. See if we can find a happy medium. That's about right. Okay, that'll work. Now notice these pictures are rough. If you keep the original in your folder first, if you will save image as and save it into your art folder. Remember, you have a folder probably that just says clip file. Just save them in there, and that way you can come back and see the details. Anything you might have lost as you cropped, you could find again. So now you got all these pieces that you can use. Now, since we're working with surrealism, which kind of has this absurd kind of feel to it, we can do a lot of things. Let's see if I can make Scout big, and I also want him driving the car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click. Up here in the right, this little image comes up, which allows me to either rotate him or flip him vertically or flip him the other direction. So I can move him here, and I want him to be pretty big, but we'll set him down like that. Now if you notice right here, I'll zoom in, he's kind of hanging over the windshield. So this is kind of just getting a little bit picky, but what I could do with that is I could move him out of the way and highlight the car. I did a Control V and a Control C, so I have two of them. And I could take one of them and crop it so that I've got just the windshield part. Just about like that. Okay. Then what I can do is layer these. I can put the car here, and then, oops, I get my windshield out where I can get it. Then I could take Scout. Now see, he's behind this car because this just happens to be the car I copied. So if I click on Scout, right click, come down here and bring to front, I can put him in the car. And then if I want that windshield to be on top, I bring it to the front. And now it looks a little more like he's sitting in the car. And I'm pretty sure that he needs to have a pigeon for a hat. And so now I've got this little design. It's not much of a composition. If I'm thinking of the whole page, I'm going to want to put some other stuff in there. So I can pull in a background picture. Let's see. If I do insert pictures online, this is just another way to access pictures. Let's see. It's kind of slow right now. I want to pick underwater. Make this whole thing underwater. So I'll click that and insert. It'll go over the whole top. It also usually has this annoying little box right here with the credits. I just cut that. And then if you want that to be the background, you can just enlarge it. In this case I can stretch it and it won't hurt anything. And click on it, send it to the back, and now all that's happening underwater. I could also make all the pieces bigger. If I want to enlarge these the same way, I just make sure they're both clicked. So now I've got this car underwater. And let's see, I'll leave Scout smaller. Go ahead, put him in there. Let's see. I think I'll leave that windshield out. So I'll put it outside the slide here and just save it. Maybe use that as a hood ornament. Then if I wanted him to be one of the tires, I could do that. And you really kind of start playing with it to see what you can come up with. And so when you go to the surrealism, and I'll have a canvas that'll give you some information on surrealism, and you use this as a tool, now what you have is this composition. And if you save it, you could do another composition right down here. You could rearrange the same things you had. You could do some others. You could do a lot of different ones. You could even do different assignments on here. And then when it comes time to actually paint it, you pull this up and you could block it in. There's kind of a big triangle of water right here. You know how we've blocked in certain shapes. That's a skill that we did way back. Well, now you have your actual image because you have used these techniques as a workshop to create that. A few examples I did in class. I believe it was this one. Let's see. No. I think it is. Here we go. So I did this one with the cars up at the polar bear inside. I did one that's kind of scary, so it doesn't always have to be humorous. And here's one with me floating. There's Scout again. We both have pineapple heads. We're floating next to a cactus and a mango. A little bit better composition. I've gone to all the edges. So I want to put this one on without a grade, just so you can kind of access and see how to use PowerPoint as a workshop. And then you'll apply this to other Canvas assignments that will follow. So what I would do first of all is to work through this. Try to get at least 3 different designs where you've put different objects in or arranged the objects in different ways, so you have some possibilities. And when you understand a little more about some surrealism and see some examples, then you'll be able to see, okay, yeah, this is just a tool that helps me to put together a surrealistic composition. And now that I know what a surrealistic composition is, I can use all that to create a really cool original work of art.